Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the stream. Welcome back to the podcast, wherever you're watching or listening from. What a game week we have had so far through game week 5. With me tonight is Damo and Dom. How we going, fellas?
Yeah, not bad, mate. Not bad at all. Sound a little bit nasally for those that are wondering. We do have a slight still nasal congestion thing, but we're all right. And Dom, how are you, mate?
Mate, Chelsea Football Club will be the death of me.
I think they're definitely going to be very central to some of the conversations that we're going to have tonight as well. And, you know, there's a lot to go through, and that's in the title for either the podcast or the stream. It's around the review, really, of this interesting game week because the template has failed, really. A lot of the popular moves from the week prior have backfired, and some real, underdog type players have really come through, and some real low ownership guys, and a real opportunity for lots of rank. So just before we do get started, if you are here in the stream, make sure you get in the comments. Let us know that you're here. We're going to be asking some questions. We'd love for you guys to contribute your questions along the way. If you're watching the video back, make sure you join our league as well. The code is spinning through the stream the whole time as well. And make sure you get in the description, and make sure you jump over to the Discord and get amongst the community over there on Discord and on Twitter. So I think the first place to start with game week 5 is what the hell's going on, because the average points is relatively high for what I think the ranks are showing. So the average points are sitting at 40, but I'm at 43 currently, and I'll get my team up in a minute. And I've still got a pretty relatively good green arrow of about 100,000 spots. Now, on Saturday, after Odson Edward had scored, I was up around the 400K, and I'd gone up about 700K whilst I was on stream with FPL Champ. So my game week has been reined in a little bit with the Arsenal clean sheet. That's kind of wiped out a lot of my gain, plus a Newcastle clean sheet, because I don't have any of those. But what I wanted to bring to you guys, Damo and I, we spoke about this a lot last week around rank and not overreacting, and someone who we all respect majorly is FPL Raptor, and he's gone from about 600K or something around that mark to 1.6 million this week, and he's ranked 9.3 mil in the world. I think there's only about 400,000 managers that have a worse score than FPL Raptor this week. So if that doesn't put it into perspective, then you know, FPL can be one of those funny games. But I need to have a quick look at our teams, because I think off the top of my head, Damo, you could be first off the rank this week.
I think I am for the first time in
so load your team
game weeks. Which, look, to be fair, if it was 5 game weeks for this to happen, I'm very happy. Like, I am indeed. And put it in perspective, ranks.
I reckon you dodged us. You dodged us the other week when you had your other worst one. You're on the Gold Coast. So don't say once, it's twice.
Is it twice? I didn't know.
Yes.
Oh, well,
you should have gone to the Gold Coast again.
My overall rank of 80K still says I'm doing
Yes, well.
All right, get into it.
Anyhow, look, obviously a couple of decisions have gone against me here, but outside of that, I'm pretty happy to not be on a massive downward arrow. I do think once subs come on, and, you know, if there's people that have bottom first sub, which I don't, or he's not coming on, then, you know, I'm going to lose a bit more rank. I am winning one of my head-to-heads and will win it, which is fantastic in my paid league. But let's just talk through the team. Obviously, the big one is the big 0-pointer from Chilwell. Obviously, a bit of a shock to see him not start, and got yellow carded within 5 minutes of coming on, which was superb. And obviously, if he doesn't come on, we get the 9 points from Botman. Next minute, I'm on 50 points, and I'll keep my top 50K rank. So that's how close it is for me. You know, I'm 8 points off saving my rank, so to say, according to live FPL. But look, if you look through the rest of the team, you know, all the big names kind of didn't do the business this week. You know, I brought Udogie in, doesn't keep a clean sheet. I thought Sheffield were really good. Madison didn't create anything. Bruno had a stinker. Obviously, Salah's the big one. You know, he should have been a third assist, but unfortunately, it wasn't. But, you know, as Salah owners, we're very happy. And then Haaland, you know. I tossed and turned with, Paul will know this and can confirm, I did have Salah captain up to about a couple of hours before the deadline, which we stuck. And then the big decision for me that's gone the other way is obviously Archer, the hero of game week 4. I decided to take his upside in such low ownership against Spurs, banking on Spurs to concede with Botman on the bench, plus Botman being still not 100% from injury, didn't know if he was going to start. So, you know, like you guys, when, you know, Paul had the Udogie 12-pointer on the bench. I've got that one there wrong, and that's the difference between me having a relatively either really small or a slight upward arrow and a red arrow.
Yeah, and I think that typically happens, at some point you get your 12-pointer out of Archer taking your punt against Everton and that one comes off. And I think, if you had your time again, I think you still make all those decisions. And the Haaland-Salah conversation's only really a hindsight conversation, because if Haaland puts away 2 of the other chances that really – he had 5 chances that he missed, that 4 of them he'd typically bury. If he puts 1 or 2 of those away, we're not having the conversation Salah versus Haaland, and that's just unlucky.
Look, at the end of the day, the main reason I went Haaland over Salah, even though I said it all Saturday, I really want to put it on Salah because I don't think Wolves were great, and we were pretty poor to it at 4-4-2 anyway, is mainly because West Ham haven't kept the clean sheet. And if there's anyone that's going to score, and he ended up scoring anyway because he's a robot, is Haaland. And, if you watch the game back, sometimes you just got to take bad decisions or decisions that haven't worked out and take away the hindsight and go, what did the eye test say? What did the stats say? And the eye test and the stats will say with Haaland that he probably should have had a hat-trick on the day and he made the right call, which just didn't pay off.
Yeah, and I'll bring that to my team as well because it fits in quite nicely. So I'm sitting on 43 points at the moment, which has got me up about 100,000 spots, I think, from, just under 1.1 million to 983. So I'm pretty much 100,000 spots up at the moment, but with Turner still to play, I do have Pickford coming off the bench. And just for those that didn't know, I did make 2 moves last week, one of those being Bruno Fernandes coming in for Matoma. So that was a -1 in points. And then I also brought in Odson Edouard for João Pedro, which ended up being a +1 in points there. So my transfers actually evened out to a nice even 0 points gained or lost over the weekend, which is a bit frustrating. Damo's already spoken about Chilwell. That's someone we're going to speak about in a bit more detail. The one I wanted to speak about was Vardiol. So I don't know, boys, if you saw much of the City game, but he had taken up a much more advanced position in that game. It looked like from the highlights that I'd seen, he was able to generate a lot more expected assist. If you have a look on the data on the screen there, he had a 0.36 XA, and most of that would have been from the cross he put in back post for Haaland that has missed a wide open net, which if that goal goes in, Vardiol gets himself, an assist. Haaland gets himself another goal as captain, and I'm absolutely flying. So I feel like I've been absolutely just robbed of points from Vardiol since I brought him in. He got robbed of a clean sheet against Sheffield United, and then Haaland misses a sitter, and I'm talking about a completely different fantasy asset in that one. But I'm pretty happy with him and my team sitting out, and I've just taken it off the screen. But Nicholas Jackson is someone who I might let Dom talk to a bit more. I've spoken quite a bit about him already. I've got on my video that's already gone up. So I'll let the conversation there go for Dom. So Dom, you want to share your screen? But I'm happy where I'm at long term. Everyone's talking about Bruno in or out. I thought in the first sort of hour he looked really good. I thought Man United did create a lot of chances. Rashford actually had 9 shots, but only 2 of those are on target. So that's an interesting bit of information for Rashford owners. And he had that assist wiped out by the ball being over the line by only an inch. So another day, Rashford puts a couple of those chances on target and he has a big haul, and then that allows Bruno to keep floating. But then the concern for Bruno was he ended up really, really deep late in the game because Man United had brought on so many attackers that they needed someone to anchor a bit more and allow that to happen. So that was just circumstance there for Bruno. Away you go, Dom.
So I currently sitting 1 point lower than you, but do have João Pedro coming on for Estupinian. So I finished the game week on 49 points, which I'm pretty happy with. Should shoot into the top 2 million. But yes, this is my guy here. That's Musa Diaby.
Can't wait to get him on.
That's the only good thing I've done all FPL is this guy here. I think so far this season. Bags another assist and has a brilliant run coming up. But I'll take the 49. I think anything around the 50 mark this game week's pretty good. But what I'm finding interesting, and you can agree or not agree, the game week rank, I thought I had a pretty good score just going on by Twitter and the community and whatnot. Yeah. And it's showing, it's only a 4 million. What are your thoughts on that? Your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's pretty relative because, I'm 4.6, you're 4.1. And then I reckon if you load up someone's that is like 50, that would be like 1 mil. I think it's so many scores that are so congested because everyone that is a templates player blanked. Everyone that's on low ownership kind of had a pretty good week. And there's no real big like, oh my God, this guy got 17 points, or something that has taken like the game score away from
Dom,
that as well.
I'll give you a bit of information here. So Aussie, Austin, I don't know why he done this, but he played his free hit, and to be fair, he got 61 in a week where the average was 40. But his game week rank is 136,704 with a 61 return. So, I might try and pull up someone else that's maybe closer to us just for a bit of.
Also think there's a few people that have wild carded this week as well.
He'll go up as well because he's got Isaac coming in for his Vinicius coming in for Isaac.
I know.
So it takes up to 68. So that's probably a top 70, 80K game week rank.
So someone here that's got 52 just for comparison. So what do you want at the moment, Dom? 42. So 10 points.
42 will be a 49, yeah.
So 10 points behind you is sitting pretty much 1 million on the dot.
Yeah.
52 is a million on the dot. So that's really tight.
It's very close. Yeah.
Yeah, well.
And that's the same. General rank's the same as well. Between me and Paul, it's only about 20 points, and I'm just inside the top 100K, and Paul's at about a mil. So, it is still quite close, congested. And when all the big names blank, the average week score is going to be quite high to relative points because everyone's scores are so close together.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't worry about that.
Yeah, and it's still early. I heard a stat last week that the person that ended up winning FPL last year was ranked around the million mark come game week 8 of last season. So last season I feel like was a bit of an anomaly with all the double game weeks and the World Cup and all of that stuff and the congestion that came from that. But it shows that if you play the game the right way, that there's potential there to do well. So look, I think there's one place to start, and it's with Nicholas Jackson. 2/3 of our wonderful podcast owners of Jackson, and the reason we held on to him for so long had been because of the fixtures, because of the pure opportunity he was going to have in front of goal to be able to get returns. But I want to get your views on it first, Dom, whilst I load up a few things on my end. What are your thoughts from a fantasy perspective first, and then how's that translating on the pitch?
Where do I start? I think Damo put it perfectly in the group chat. He looks like Bambi on ice when he runs.
Yeah.
But it's in another world, he has 6 goals this year. But it's I don't know.
It's the Forest one stands out.
Yeah.
There was a chance against Liverpool game week 1 that stands out. The ball gets flushed across the box. There was one more where I was like, you got to be kidding me. Was it at home?
There's probably a few, yeah.
There was a home fixture. I remember him inside the 6-yard box as well. And then last night, he hits the post on a shot that he scuffs,
Yeah.
But he just doesn't. In pre-season, I was thinking about this because I can't remember, Damo, when we were speaking about it. Was it just at my house, maybe? I can't remember. I think we've maybe underappreciated the impact that not having Nkunku has had on Jackson, like from a pressure perspective, not from a output and a data perspective, but I think from a general just taking
starting.
Yeah, well, it's not that. I think he feels that he needs to be the guy where, at least with Nkunku, it took away, another set of defenders, and it allowed Jackson to kind of get into some good positions because defenses were going to have to go to Nkunku, where I think Jackson's the outlet now, and he's just not the guy. Like, he really isn't. No. And even if we go to the stats here, if you bear with me, and we look at forwards, then this is the constant dilemma. And I spoke very much about data last week with Damo on the pod. When you're looking at XG across all strikers, it's Haaland by a country mile. Then it is Jackson. And then you look at his expected points of 25 with an output of 11. You're looking at 18 shots, but only 6 on target. So he's got, 2/3 of his shots have gone off target, but 16 of his 18 shots have been inside the box. Like, it's unbelievable numbers. But there's got to be a point where we start going, is it worth it? So I've got a couple ideas on where I'm going to go with Jackson. But Damo, I want to get your thoughts on Nicholas Jackson as a non-owner, because I don't think you're going to have the same level of investment as a lot of people have. First of all, I want to get you to maybe unpack the pick of Jackson, but then what you would do if you're an owner with the fixtures of Fulham away, Burnley away, Villa at home, Fulham away, Burnley away, potentially going into a wild card to get off of the poor run that we know Chelsea have.
Look, it's a pick that I have been lucky with, is what I would say. And like, I can understand going for him, and I can also understand, why everyone hyped him up. I can also understand why everyone's frustrated too, right? In a perfect world, if money wasn't a factor, and money is a factor, and I own Salah, so money is a massive factor, I would have owned him with the fixtures they had, and especially what I saw against Liverpool as well. He looked, that was his best performance from his Liverpool one, because he looked Drogba-esque in how he wins the ball back, etc. And there was a moment against Bournemouth where, bodies a defender and holds it up, and Chelsea create from that. I think Bambi on ice comes from the fact that his touch and his first touch, his link-up play looks very, it's like limbs and arms going everywhere.
He looks his best when it's off the ball. Like, he looks his best, like the Mudryk one. He plays a quick ball out to Mudryk, makes the run in behind, and then Mudryk slips him through for a chance. That's, for me, when he's looked the best.
Same here. And for me, his best is in that movement, bringing others in the game with his physicality, and that's about it. So in terms of that, I think I like him as a prospect, and someone maybe in the future could have been, someone that comes into the team, maybe, Gameweek's 26 when the fixtures roll around again. But, I've been lucky, but I think you've made all the right decision to hold him this long. And I think if you're planning on wildcard in Game Week 9 with the fixtures they have, I know Chelsea haven't really clicked yet. I'd probably still hold him unless you're moving to Watkins early, even though you're going to probably get him in from Game Week 9, or take the punt on Isaac right now as well. I wouldn't go, he's your priority sell. I want to touch on the Nkunku point that you made, Paul, which is something that I really want to bring up. As I think with Nkunku being there, one of the defenders has to go, right? So with one of the defenders having to go with Nkunku, it's a one-on-one where he can be physical. We can, he can turn people. We can, hold it up and link other people in. When it's two centre-backs on him, just himself, he looks like that he's not 100%.
Yeah.
He's
able to. Yeah, and then the main concerns around the finishing. So, Dom, what are you thinking about Jackson, short-term, long-term? What are your early thoughts?
Yeah, I think I'm going to have... Well, now I've kind of, I've gone with him now, Might as well just stick with him until next international break. 3 games. We've got, Villa at home. Villa are good, but they concede. Fulham away, Burnley. So you can't, and with no other number 9, you got to hold him to the international break.
I think so too.
And, and it might just click. But... I doubt it.
And that's the worry. So what's your situation at the moment, Dom? Have you got 1 free transfer or 2 going into this week?
Yeah, I'm going to bank I got 1 transfer, but I'm probably going to bank it. But I think I'm going to bench Jackson.
Against Villa?
Because obviously Champions League, depending on what happens with Joao Pedro, if we get early news, I'm not sure, but I'm thinking of benching Jackson, yeah.
For Joao Pedro, is that who'll come in?
Yeah. One of the 2 or a Doji against Arsenal. I'm not sure, but I'm leaning towards a benching of Nicholas Jackson, yeah.
I wouldn't bench him, personally.
Yeah.
I think his HG number, he puts up good numbers.
Yeah. I think I don't know, because there'll be a lot of players coming back. You got to think we had 10 players out Saturday. A few will come back. Villa have Europe midweek.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting.
I'm sure one of you will convince me to start him. I probably will start him, but at the moment he's on the bench.
Okay, I don't mind that because I've been sitting here all day today, literally sitting here all day. For those that don't know, very set on using my 1 free transfer to make a move for Julian Alvarez. That's been. You
said it last night, yeah.
That's been in my head because I've wanted Alvarez for so long, and I've been very vocal around Pep Roulette, avoiding Pep Roulette. But since Kevin De Bruyne has gone down, Julian Alvarez has missed
I
1
think
minute.
you got to hold out to see what happens in the Champions League. If Alvarez doesn't step on the pitch, because I think they have a pisser of a game. They have someone terrible in midweek, and then they have Forest at home. So they got
Correct.
Yeah, and that was the thought. So the
yeah.
thought was they play on Wednesday our time.
Yeah.
If Alvarez doesn't feature in that game, then it's
I'd
going
be
to be
straight
very,
making it.
very hard for me to not move to Alvarez for it to potentially be a 3 to 4 week punt, because I think I could stretch my wild card into game week 10 if I have to. But I think I'm going to really struggle with that because I don't really have a whole lot else to do with my team if I share my screen with you guys, and I might just make it a bit smaller.
City are playing Wednesday.
Early.
They're playing home.
Yeah, City at home are just a different game, aren't they?
Home into another home game.
So my actual initial thoughts this morning was going to be almost taking a hit, which I know I said the other week that I wasn't going to take hits, but it was to get potentially a Newcastle defender in and get Alvarez in. Now, I've kind of talked myself out of it, and I think I'm going to just ride Chilwell because I can just use Udoji the same as you've said, Dom. So I think I've talked myself out of taking the -4. But when I look at my team, and I look at my team long-term over the next few weeks, I don't particularly need 2 transfers, if that makes sense. Obviously, I'd like Elliot Anderson. You know, he played 90 minutes for the first time on the weekend. If he can find a way to lock a spot in with this Champions League rotation and he plays in the league, then that could be another option off the bench if someone doesn't play, and I'll be happy with that. But what I'm thinking is there's a world where I use the transfer this week to just move the Jackson headaches out of my side for Alvarez, take the 3-week or 4-week potential punt, and just accept the fact that if he gets rotated, he gets rotated. The main thing for Alvarez, I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on it because I spoke about it earlier today. His numbers comparatively are nowhere near Jackson. So he has had a lot of shots, though. He has had 16 shots, and the same as Jackson, only 6 of those 16 versus 6 of 18 have been on target, but 11 of those have been inside the box. He's been involved in 3 big chances, but he's just returned with these monster assists. He's had 5 assists from a 1.24 XA, and that is just unbelievable overperforming. He's had an expected points of 24 with an actual return of 37. So is there a world where we see that slowing down, or do we think he's just that locked in that number 10 role? Because so far we've seen Foden play in there, we've seen Bernardo play in there, and we've seen Nunez come off the bench and play in there. But Alvarez has been the one, and apparently last year it was the same. When De Bruyne went down, Alvarez then locked the spot in behind Haaland. Do we think this is his time now and he's going to get a good run of games?
It's got to be. It's got to be. Pep
very certain it is.
Is notorious for easing players in. And I think when you look at Julian Alvarez, he's just come off winning a World Cup, probably starts at number 9 for most clubs in the world. I think Pep said to him, "You're the guy now. You're going to be my guy." Because, you know, if he doesn't, he thinks, well, you know, Real Madrid need a striker, I'll go there. Something like that. So I think Pep's pretty much pointed to him. And this is showing us now that Alvarez, this is your chance. You're going to be a starter for me. You're our future.
Yep, Damo.
Look, I think with Alvarez, if you haven't got on him yet, the question is, do you now just don't get him until your wild card? My worry is more Pep Roulette, and I know that we think he's nailed, but how many times in the past have we seen Foden look nailed and then he just drops out the team randomly? And you know,
I think with Foden, though, it's an attitude thing because Foden's the only one, really. Foden's the only one of a guy of that quality that's been getting the amount of rotation he's had. And he's had his character questioned multiple times.
I think
the fact that Grealish starts on time, I don't know.
Look, for me, I find it hard to get on Man City assets for that first reason is the Pep Roulette. Secondly, the numbers, even though they don't look as good, you have to read numbers relevant to the team, right? Now, Jackson's numbers may be great, but he plays in an underperforming team that doesn't have the quality of City. if Alvarez's numbers are great and he's feeding balls into Haaland and he's having, the likes of Foden and Grealish, De Bruyne are feeding him, the quality of chance he might get is going to be better. So when that number's lower, that, the outcome's probably a bit of a better outcome because it's going to be a higher quality moment, just less of them. The reason Jackson's numbers are so high is because he's having so many shots and so many opportunities, but, it doesn't have the quality around him or in himself to take that upon, where Alvarez probably starts even up front for us here at Liverpool. So, his end product is much better, and in a team where their end product is much better. So he doesn't need as many numbers for him to really look nailed. Don't get me wrong, if I had the money, again, if money wasn't a factor, I would have a front three that would involve Alvarez. But, having Salah kind of shoehorns me into my 4.5 with strikers, and as much as he worries me, I do think there's enough doubt that he wouldn't even come in for me on my wild card.
Look, I don't think he's going to be a wild card play because the fixtures long term for Man City are. I mean, I feel like City assets are just fixture proof. Like that's just the nature of Man City. So if we look at his fixtures here, they go Forest at home, Wolves away, Arsenal away, Brighton home, Man United away. Like I see goals in the Forest game, I see goals in the Wolves game, probably goals at Arsenal because Arsenal love conceding goals at the Emirates. Brighton have struggled they haven't kept a clean sheet all year. Neither of Man United have kept one clean sheet. Bournemouth have, kept one here against Chelsea. But then Chelsea, Liverpool, Spurs is an interesting run of games. But again, both Liverpool and Spurs are at the Etihad. I'm going to find it very, very hard not to make this move because I just can't with Jackson anymore. Like there has to be a point where you got to just bite the bullet. And I feel like this year I've done a good job at riding the wave with Jackson. But when he shows you absolutely nothing and just scuffs it into the freaking stands all the time, and my bigger concern, not even just Jackson, it's the actual Chelsea attack. They've had one return because of Luton, and Luton have gone down in 20th spot, and they had a good half against Liverpool. They haven't shown anything else all season. Everyone's bought Sterling. Sterling's very unlucky he doesn't score that free kick. But at the end of the day, what else have we... Like, I think the Pep Roulette is worth... As you said, the quality of chances are there. Even if Alvarez plays 30 minutes, I'd rather the 30 minutes, and that's going completely off the script we've seen this year. Give me 30 minutes of Alvarez versus 95 of Jackson at this point.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. And look, if I had the money and money wasn't an option, he'd definitely be like my top transfer target for game week 6 because of the Forest fixture, even though I think Forest aren't the worst defence out there. What I would also say is you were mentioning the fixtures and going through his fixture list. I'm going to just put it out there. If you can nail the second Man City asset outside of Haaland as an attacker, and at the moment I think Alvarez is the best one, and if he stays nailed, fixtures aren't a thing for Man City. They're just fixture proof. So you just play him. I really, look, and I don't wish ill health on anyone or anything like that, but I really want a moment where Haaland is just out for like 6 weeks.
Just to see what happens.
Just to see what would happen with Fantasy Premier League. Who would sell him? Who would keep him? I think he would get quick, get drop in price massively. And what that would create is then, okay, all of a sudden we're going for Alvarez. And now we got money in because Haaland's out. Does that mean we're going Alvarez and Foden now? Is it going Alvarez and someone else? Is it still just one Man City option? I think that would be a crazily cool dynamic as well. I don't wish any ill health. But I really do think Alvarez is a very good transfer in if you're going to get rid of Jackson. Yeah.
I think that it's going to be dependent on what happens midweek, and that's where I'm at. So that's the main. I feel like most people are going to be in a boat where they've either got 2 free transfers and they're looking at moving a Chelsea defender to a Newcastle one, which I wouldn't actually do. I feel like if you own Gusto or Colwill in particular at the moment, that you hold them and you ride them because although Chelsea look dreadful going forward, they're looking really good defensively. So they're not conceding a lot of chances. They've kept a couple clean sheets, I think, through the start of the season as Dom's frozen there. So I think I got you back. They have kept some clean sheets. So I wouldn't be panic, and I wouldn't panic sell Chilwell this week either. I think that's a bit reactionary. He's been played in a new role. I think if Pochettino's got any sense, there's got to be a world where Chilwell rolls back to left back because if we're talking about them creating chances, Chilwell on the wing isn't going to be that option. But if you get Chilwell to link up on the left-hand side with a Mudryk, it might allow Chelsea to do a little bit more from an attacking perspective. We saw that ball that he whipped in for Jackson that it literally hit Jackson in the head. Jackson didn't head the ball headed Jackson. And if, and another day, if Jackson and actually the actual header wasn't bad, but he had no intention of going where he thought it was going. And if that found its way into the back of the net, you're talking about a monster play there where Chilwell gets an assist, Jackson gets a goal and bonus points probably, and we're laughing. And then we're not talking about selling Jackson probably at that point, even if he returns. Yeah. But they're the individual instances that I go, if he can't put his head on the ball that's being crossed to him on a dime, that's the last straw for me. It's just, and I bring Odds and Edward in, and what was that?
I think he was unsighted, so I think that's a bit harsh.
Oh, I don't care. He's just missed so many of those chances inside the 6-yard box. I got to pull the pin because it's one of those ones where I've ridden him for 5 weeks. I've got 1 return and then 1 pointers in the other 4 games. Yep. I'm going to keep falling behind the pack. It doesn't even matter if he returns at this point, and I've got Alvarez because I feel like Alvarez is going to get there. And this isn't meant to be the Nick Jackson versus Alvarez show, but I think that's just where I'm at with Jackson. Damo, I might get you to focus on what your thoughts are around any Game Week 6 transfers or players that you're looking for.
I will in a sec. I actually want to touch on something you said. You said something about the Chelsea defence, and I've had Colwell and Chilwell since Game Week 1, right? I've got a question for Dom, being the resident Chelsea fan. What do you think of Chelsea defensively at the moment?
Oh, it's shaky. It's very shaky.
Could
have easily conceded.
I don't think it's a defence that you should target, and I don't think it's a defence where clean sheets are expected. Now, I play Colwell and Chilwell together when the fixtures are good, and I try everything in my power to not double up on them at the moment because without Sanchez in net, who I do think out of anyone at Chelsea you're going to go for is Sanchez, and that's it really at the moment for what we see.
Yeah.
Second thing, Dom, Chilwell being as a left back, what do you think his average position was on the weekend when he did come on?
Probably on the corner flag.
But that's different though because they're chasing the game.
Man, he spent more time inverted instead of mid-roll. He's at his best when he's wide on the touchline, linking up with the winger, getting in behind. He did it once and he got a ball in the box. I'm not saying you need a quick sell, fire sell Chilwell right now, but if he gets benched again or he gets, he plays inverted and doesn't create, I'd much rather see him play left wing where he did in the first few weeks. I might go down the route of selling Chilwell next week instead of my other options.
Yeah, it's getting really close.
We need that extra data though.
Yes, that's correct. I want to see an extra week. I want to see if he can back in the starting 11, and I want to see if he plays left back from the first minute. And it would just be Cole into the middle of the park, you would imagine then, as at centre back. I want to see if he plays wide or if he plays inverted because I don't think Chilwell's an inverted wing back at all.
No way. No, he shouldn't be playing inverted.
No.
Anyhow, you had a question for me about Game Week 6, Paul. What was the question?
Yeah. So who are you targeting? Game Week 6, or who should you be targeting if you're needing to make transfers?
Well, let me bring up the team anyway. Make sure I've got the right screen here, Fantasy Football Hub. I'm rolling because as much as people panic and as much as people might look at me and go, look at my numbers and go, oh, Damien, you're dropping from 49K to probably by the time the game ends and everyone's subs coming outside the 100K. I'm in a spot where if I look at my game week team next week, outside of Pickford playing in Wemo, it's a very good game week side. Yes, there's question marks over Chilwell now, but we'll wait and we'll see. And I have the data from Botman to know that he's going to start against Sheffield.
Can you just slide it down a little bit so I can see your bench?
Yeah, of course I can there, mate.
Thank you.
There we are. And obviously Turner, Udoji, Semenyo, and Archer on the bench. Main reason I'm rolling is everyone knows that I'm targeting Game Week 7 and bringing in 2 Luton players, which I know for a team in 20 sounds crazy. But after the data we collated for the weekend, if Kabore starts again, it will be Kabore in and Morris. If I was to target someone for my team, though...
who should people be targeting? That's probably the next question. So, if you're a Sterling owner, if you're a Jackson owner, I feel like they're the only 2 players that really should be getting mass sold this week.
Look, I think you're going Alvarez if you have Jackson. I think that's the only move you pivot to. I don't think getting Watkins for Chelsea is advised. And you could go to a Newcastle to target Sheffield, Burnley, as well.
With
So
Champions
maybe
League, I worry about Newcastle though. I really
correct.
Yeah.
do.
I would target Alvarez.
And you got Conference League for Villa, whatever the competition you're in.
Yeah, conference.
Midfield wise, it's a bit more of a weird one. I think if you don't have Mbeumo, I think as much as it sounds crazy to go from Sterling all the way down to Mbeumo, I think it's great because then that you can fund the other moves to maybe get Son on as a punt, for Luton or before you wild
Game
card.
week 8.
Yeah, correct, right? So I think Mbeumo against Everton and then Forest is someone I would target if you go with Sterling. If you want to go with someone a little bit more expensive, I know you guys might slate me for saying this, but, as much as it pains me, and I know they've been poor, I think Bruno and Rashford is still someone that you should get in for Burnley and Palace as well.
I agree.
Jeez.
Big time agree. Especially if they're going to play this 4-1-2-1-2 diamond, and you're going to get Højlund, Rashford, and Bruno. The first half an hour, they look fantastic. They just got to get the midfield mix right, and Casemiro has to not be a part of it, I think. He offered nothing. Nothing.
He has to
be. No. If you're going to play that system, McTominay's got to be in it because he gives you energy. He's going to press. It's got to be Eriksen, McTominay, and Amrabat. That's got to be their three moving forward. Behind that front three as a triangle.
And
has to be.
In the first 45 minutes.
Or Mount.
I'll give Man United. I thought Rashford was pretty good. I thought it was a bit wasteful, but very good areas. Last year, everything he touched turned to goal. This year, it's not, right?
And he had a few of those ones, Damo, when he was sitting on that left side and shifted inside and a few flash past the far post. Last year, they were all hitting the side netting.
And correct. And that's the difference between Rashford and last year getting all these monster hauls and this year they're not. That's a smart, fine margin. So I think there's a room where it will turn. And look, I keep saying Bruno. At some point, all these numbers have to accumulate to something like a silly 15-pointer at some point. So,
you got to think it's coming.
With another penalty.
Yeah, look, there's going to be a world where Bruno's going to give Rashford 3 assists and it's going to be 3 goals for Rashford and United are going to win 4-0 and it's going to be Bruno and Rashford that have done everything. And I'm not a Man United supporter. I've got a Liverpool badge back up here, but I would be targeting Mbeumo. And if you want someone more exciting, I still think Rashford and Fernandes are the two if you're dropping Sterling.
Yeah. Rashford looked really good in that first half. I balled his feet running at defenders.
Yeah, and then should have had an assist, as I said earlier. So what I want to bring up on the screen as well is, before we get into some questions, is who's been getting sold so far. So the game week's not even over.
Yep.
And this should be now for game week 6. Yeah, total number of times players been transferred this game week should be game week 6 because we've already had the deadline for game week 5. So Nicholas Jackson, 137,000 managers have already sold Jackson from last night. 134,000 have sold Isaac after his benching dilemma, and then it's 95,000 Chilwell, 88,000 March, Rashford at 76,000, and Watkins at 63,000 to round out. Probably the highest, but there's a few there around the 60 mark. Onana, Wissa, Sterling, Bruno, Luis Diaz, Trent, Darwin, Estupinan, 50,000 managers have already transferred him out as well. So there's a lot of overreaction to the game week, and that's typically what we see when there's a big, poor performance there in game weeks. But, I wouldn't be selling most of those guys that are on that list, bar Sterling, Jackson. I don't mind the sale of Isaac because you just don't know. And I think a lot of those Isaac owners are going to Alvarez as well.
Yeah.
Because I can't see you going up anywhere. So I think if you're going from Isaac to Alvarez, I don't mind that too, because I think Isaac will get used in the Champions League, which is what we saw at the weekend with Wilson starting and scoring, as well. I think Wilson could be a good play in the Premier League potentially, but then I think those weeks in between Champions League, it's going to be hard. I think when there's an injury to one of them, you buy the other one for the period of time that the other one's out, and then you get rid of them. But, that could be a play for Newcastle attack.
I'm just so shocked that I see Rashford there and he looked really good on the weekend. And if you're thinking about making the move from Sterling to Rashford, I'll wait as long as you can. Get Rashford's price at 8.7, 8.8, and then take it and off you go. The other one, by the way, in terms of live price drops, is Watkins is literally about to drop right now. And then from game week 9, as G'day to Stella. In game week 9, that was good. That was close. In game week 9, if Watkins has dropped down in 7.9, 7.8, that's when his fixtures turn on. Wildcard, he could be really good too. So I think there's no one really on that list that I'll be quick fire selling.
Yeah.
The super one's just ridiculous.
Man, he's about to play against Bournemouth. The only reason he didn't play is because he just flew on a plane the night before. So I don't know how you can drop probably one of the most attacking left backs in the league for
Probably
for no reason.
FPL wise, probably the best defender in the game.
Yeah. And I think it's more people panicking about not having Newcastle defence as well. So that could be people going to Botman, because if I look at the most transferred in, well, that's a big price gap though. So the biggest transferred in at 308,000. So that is massive compared to what we've seen. So that's pretty much every single Jackson owner and every Isaac owner and another 40,000 have gone to Julian Alvarez.
Yeah.
So he is getting mass transferred in. The second player, wait, I better share my screen because you're going to love this second player.
The second player is going to make me just lose my mind, isn't it?
It is James Ward-Prowse.
Oh, I've been mentioning him to you, Paulie.
Yeah, because he's been playing as a number 8, and that's the thing. Like,
different James Ward-Prowse.
It is very much a different James Ward-Prowse. He's not just sitting there and spraying passes. He's actually involved. He's
waiting for a free kick.
No, but two of his goals have come from inside the 6-yard box getting crumbs. So,
I can't remember the last time he scored inside the box.
Yeah. So he could be. Look, I keep saying no to Ward-Prowse only because there's so many good midfielders at the price that he's going to stop. But he's not going to stop because look at his returns. Like, so he didn't play game week 1. He's returned every game. 2 assists, a goal, an assist, a goal.
The reason why James Ward-Prowse at West Ham is a much better prospect than Southampton is that Southampton he played very deep. He sat there and it was just all about set piece threat. What Moyes has given him in this new role is you're the surging midfielder. So when we win the ball, we go on the break, and these two are creating. Whoever's playing up front at the time, it's Bold, Antonio, whatever. And they're the ones bringing him into the game, right? And then it's like, all right, get your bottom into that box at pace. Be the option. And if you look at his goal on the weekend, comes surging from deep, puts it in the back of the net.
It's the old Thomas Souček role.
Correct. Couple that with set pieces, which he's the best set piece taker in the league by miles, right?
Yep.
Can't change my mind.
With Zuma and whatnot attacking his corners and free kicks too.
I usually would say with Ward-Prowse, I said it to Russo, I reckon, at the start of the season or when he joined. It's like, with Ward-Prowse, you buy him, you just stick him on your team and expect 2 pointers and then get the 10-pointer when he gets the goal or the assist from the corner or the free kick, or he scores 2 free kicks in the game. I now look at Ward-Prowse and go, for 6.1 mil, he is someone that on a game week 9 wildcard I'm considering, because I could go to elite like Salah and Son, followed by Ward-Prowse, a Matoma, and
or a Diaby.
Yeah, correct. Or Diaby.
Look, there's one other factor we don't know about yet. It's who's on penalties for West Ham. Ben Rama's been on and off them. Bowen's been off them lately. Ward-Prowse has a pretty decent Premier League penalty record too. So for 6.1 million, if you're getting bombing into the box, you're getting all the free kicks and corners, and you're getting penalties for 6.1, 6.2, 6.3 million, that's going to be, and if I bring up their fixtures post game week 9, they go Aston Villa, Everton, Brentford, Forest, Burnley, Palace, Spurs, Fulham, Wolves, United, Arsenal, Brighton, Sheffield, Bournemouth, United, Arsenal, Forest. There's not a stretch of games in there. He could be the perfect plug and play 5th midfielder for your team, especially if he's on penalties. So interesting one to keep an eye on over the next couple of weeks with hard fixtures. And Buemo still coming in 103,000. When I bought him,
keep going, my son.
He was at 11% when I bought him going into game week 2. So, everyone's on the Mbeumo train. I love it. Salah 93,000 again. Looking very, very solid. We haven't spoken much about Salah. Then Botman and my boy Edouard rounded out. So some interesting transfers in for only one day. Well, the deadline's not, the game week hasn't even started. There's still games tonight. So there's a lot of movement, and that's typical of what we see at the start of FPL anyway. I think come sort of game week 10 to 15, we see some of those less engaged managers drop off, and then it kind of will calm down. But before we answer any questions, is there anything else or anyone else you guys wanted to touch on?
No, I can't believe
No.
the Stupinian trade outs. That's ridiculous.
All right, and Damo, you're all good?
I'm all good, mate. James Ward-Prowse for the legend. I reckon he's in a lock in my Game Week 9 wildcard.
Yeah, so there we go. So thank you very much. If you've got to this point of the podcast as well, make sure if you're listening on Spotify, our podcast, and all platforms, that you do jump over to YouTube at FPL Dopata to watch us and see us and interact with us on the stream. Thank you once again, fellas, for your participation tonight, and we will see you guys for our Game Week 6 content as well, but make sure you jump over to YouTube at Paulie29 and Damo_23 for our own videos as well, and we'll see you very, very soon.